second part of the time.
Yes, hello. My name is Olli. I come from the City University of Hong Kong. I will talk about knowledge and discovery in computer games via talking about objects and their relations. In this connection, I thought it would be relevant to mention this guy since he's in the paper. I don't see so many faces seemingly familiar with this. This guy is known for his hit song called The Pen, Pineapple, Apple Pen, which is all about combining things, making weird connections, and it's procedural rhetoric, if you ask me. More of him in the paper. So I'm interested in discovering computer games via talking about objects. I'm interested in describing how computer games how we can consider computer games as affording players making discoveries in the game, experiencing these discoveries as significant, and then intersubjectively sharing these discoveries with other players. What are the conditions of possibility for these things to happen? How can we describe them? To get at the answer of this question, first I considered computer games first as following Andrew Pickering as ontology engines, and then Don Idy epistemology engines, and then I arrived at these levels of discovery in computer games. First level of discovery is the discovery of the ontology in the game. What objects are out there? What can I do in the game? Then there is the discovery of the instrumental rationality. How the object helped me postpone death. What do I need to do in the game? And then finally discovering the possibility for some sort of self-realization. How the game allows me to take on my own projects within gameplay. What I want to do in the game. To make this argument, I will be looking at two games. Little Alchemy is a casual interactive artwork disguised as a puzzle game, and then Daisy is a open world survival game with permadeath. So they are quite the two ends of the spectrum here. How I will go about this? Actually, I started in a bit of a reverse order. I thought I would just consider computer games as ontology engines and be done with it. But then I was reminded by what Haraway has called the God trick. How do we perceive these ontology engines? And that led me to dealing with the question of computer game and its interface. A computer game simultaneously has that which we perceive and that which lets us perceive, or through which we perceive. Problem addressed by some in this conference series already. I should mention Emil Hammar in 2013 in his paper Post-Phenomenological Play. Also Daniel has touched upon this subject. So I felt I need to at least bracket that issue of interface for this paper. Then I will look at the discovery of ontology in Little Alchemy. Then I will share, time permitting, my experience of being beaten to death on Scallisti Island in Daisy. And that should lead me to describe these three levels of discovery in computer games. First, the notion of epistemology engine. Don Idy has used that with Eben Selinger to refer to technologies which are significantly involved or even make possible particular ways in which humans can know about the world. As examples, he mentions camera obscura, telescope, Large Hadron Collider, which not only creates Higgs bosons but lets us perceive Higgs bosons. It would seem quite sensible that computer games could perhaps also be considered as epistemology engines. But doing so would require situating computer games within what Idy calls the intentionality relations framework. It's part of that system to talk about computer games as epistemology engines. According to Idy, that move just needs to be done. So Idy's framework can be roughly separated into three categories. There's technologies as mediating, technologies as focal, quasi-others, and technologies in the background. Mediation can be further separated into two. Idy himself, in Bodies in Technology from 2002, recounts his experience of playing flight simulator with his son. And based on his experience, he describes computer games as situating in alterity relations, computer game as the focal quasi-other. completely disregarding the effects of the interface. It's slightly problematic, even if we let go of all the presuppositions that there should be an interface in the game, and rely on what is given in the experience. If we play Half-Life 2, the interface, some of the interface overlays are enabled only after you wear a certain suit in the game. So there we have it, given in the experience, difference between game and the interface. So that's something we simply can't ignore. How to deal with this? Maybe we would consider tearing apart the game and the interface so that the interface would mediate the access to the game, either hermeneutic or embodied, mouse or overlays or some. And then the game would be that which appears as the focal quasi-other in alterity relation. But that is not productive, because there is a certain double directedness in both interface and the game. We cannot experience the actual interface in itself as separate from the game. It is always an interface onto or about a particular game world. So we would say that interface exists only in relation to the game. Similarly, through the interface is the only way in which we can access the game world as players. So the game world also exists only in relation to the interface. This double-directedness seems to suggest that game and interface are intertwined in a special relationship, related to, or comparable to perhaps, analogous to what Merleau-Ponty has described as the lived body, or maybe also related to what Christina Jorgensen has referred to as the game world interface. I would have to revisit that book to make sure that is the case. Bollington describes how Merleau-Ponty's notion of lived body involves mind, body, and the world. She suggests that these are realms to be understood as levels intertwined with each other, constituting a unified field. The self, the body, and the world of things and others are neither separated from each other, nor to be confused with each other, but rather can be seen as three sectors or levels of the unique field. This is the way I am hoping to bracket the question of interface for the purposes of this paper, considering the game and the interface as sectors of the field where the field is the game as played. And maybe I would dare to suggest that instead of further theorizing the separation between the two based on examples such as the Hevsuit or others, maybe it is not something that we can account for philosophically, I mean comfortably in the armchair, but we would actually have to look at the games themselves and account for it empirically. The dividing line between game and interface in Tetris is supposedly quite different from that in DayZ, for example. But nevertheless, in a particular game, the dividing line is something that is shared by all players and all playings, which leads me to think that maybe the location or the constellation of these sectors can form a basis for intersubjectivity in computer games. I turned to Sokolovsky, the year should be 1999, I forgot to put it there. Sokolovsky, building on other phenomenological thinkers, has suggested that world and body are the basis for intersubjectivity. In this context, I take it as meaning that the world held in common is the game. Other players can take on multiple perspectives in the game. I can take other players' perspectives. Pretty much the logic of sharing the world seems to work for sharing the game. Also the body then, other players, of course, most games are played by humans, but we never know, no one on the internet knows that you are a dog. But even the dog on the internet would have an interface like that of mine. Like the experience of another self is based on experience of another body as like our own. Other players perceive the game held in common through an interface like that we perceive the game through. So, okay, this amounts to my placeholder for bracketing of the game interface problem for the purposes of this paper. Then the notion of games as ontology engines. The thing with ID's intentionality framework I've discovered is that I have difficulty for applying it to talking about doing something. It's good for perceiving, seeing, hearing, sort of one-directional activity. But even in the case of the Higgs boson and the Large Hadron Collider, I find it difficult to understand how the two-way exchanges between the human and the technology could be accounted for from that framework. And it seems I'm not alone with this. Andrew Pickering has suggested that ID's project of epistemology engines assumes that the point of our being in the world were to represent the world to ourselves, rather than the unavoidable project of getting along materially. And Pickering suggests to consider technologies not as deceiving us about epistemology, as he sees this epistemology engine doing, but consider technologies instead as ontology engines, instructive devices which exemplify ontologies. And Pickering's example is the cybernetic system of homeostats. He notes that the system stood as readily for itself, a collection of inanimate electromechanical parts, an adaptive autopilot flying a plane, the British economy, and the evolution of biological species. Homeostat assemblages could then serve as models for all aspects of the world, including aspects from which humans are simply absent. I'm not here claiming that computer games would be cybernetic systems, which is a project taken, for example, by Giddings and Kennedy, 2006. But I'm taking this idea of computer games as ontology engines as meaning that they are systems which can exemplify ontologies, fair enough. But here I'm not saying that they should be considered as models of anything we know from the world. I'm not claiming there to be any sort of referentiality under normal circumstances, but maybe the simulation gap can be bridged, maybe the congruence requirement can be fulfilled, and then maybe we can describe there to be some sort of referentiality from the game as an ontology engine to the ontologies we know from the world. Okay, then onwards to ontology in Little Alchemy. To make this, to account for these discoveries, I turn on the Israeli philosopher Olli who talks about the philosophy of making scientific discoveries, and he distinguishes between two kinds of discoveries: discovery of possibilities, discovery of actualities. And he says that the second kind of discovery, actualities, depends on the first kind, possibilities. To discover new actualities, we have to discover their pure possibilities identities first, or at least not to exclude these possibilities, but to admit them knowingly or unknowingly. With this in mind, let's look at Little Alchemy by Jakub Kosiol from 2013. It looks like a puzzle game. The point for us is to combine items to combine them again until we have exhausted all 560 combinations. There is no failure condition, there is no timer, free for all. Let's look at some of these combinations. We put together air and air, we get pressure. Seems logical, yes. What do you think happens when we put together water and water? That should also make pressure. I have pressure, you have pressure, but no, it makes a sea. But then what if we put water and cold? Yes, that makes sense, ice comes about. But how about we put together tea and ice? Iced tea. Now my favorite part. What if we replace the tea with the dog? We get a husky. And now as we are on Malta, a special treat for you. Put a human and armor together, we get a knight. Seems something is being exemplified, for sure. Something about objects and their relations is being exemplified, yes. I think we can maybe describe Little Alchemy as the first level of discovery in games. We can discover what objects are there and how are they related. I shall skip this bit for the interest of time. We can say that yes, it exemplifies an ontology, yes, but we should note that there is no logic that we could discover behind the combinations. We can't make first 10 discoveries and then think how should I make the next 10 discoveries. We can't discover the possibility before we discover the actuality. So if we stick to Gilead, that the possibility is a precondition for discovering actuality, then we must say that maybe Little Alchemy does not even afford the first level of discovery. We can also note that it's not a puzzle game, as Veli-Matti Karhulahti has suggested, that there needs to be a possibility of separation between the idea and execution of a solution. So Little Alchemy is not a puzzle either. So not all games are like Little Alchemy, but perhaps just because of this, Little Alchemy could be useful as a reference point, or as ID would call it, limit idea for thinking comparatively about discovery in computer games. What we note about Little Alchemy is that there is no death, no risk, no failure, no getting stuck, no time limit, everything is equally trivial. The gameplay is all about second-guessing the author's ideas from the game. And once we have completed these discoveries, once we have uncovered the ontology, the game is over. So here's a little comparison between object relations in Little Alchemy and DayZ. Husky is at the end of the line. If we have discovered all the end-of-the-line objects in Little Alchemy, then the game is over. We can recombine if we will, but there is nothing else new to be discovered. Compare this to a combination of objects in DayZ. We combine a burlap sack and some rope. First we get an improvised messenger bag. Then if we find sticks, then we can combine these sticks with the improvised messenger bag, and we get an improvised backpack that holds 35 items. It can be used for something. And we could argue that only after we have discovered these essential combinations of items, then we can actually start playing DayZ. Then the learning phase is done, then we can start playing. Leads me to talking about the second kind of discovery, of instrumental rationality, using objects for the need of survival. We use backpacks to carry items. We find that trees are useful for foraging for apples. We find that if we have a saw and a shotgun, we can saw off the part of the barrel and then it becomes a sawed-off shotgun. If we break our leg, we can craft a splint from rags and wood and stick. Or if we are sort of more aesthetically inclined persons, we can paint firefighter axe with green spray paint. Maybe it's also helping us to not get spotted when we are hiding in the forest. So there's the second level of discovery of instrumental rationality. We recognize how the objects I know already from level 1 help me to postpone death, what I need to do in the game, to operationalize my knowledge of the ontology. But in relation to what? DayZ has no goal. We can't say that things are instrumental in relation to the goal, at least in the traditional ludological sense of the goal as something that the player wants to achieve. The only goal in DayZ is to not die. So there is a gameplay in a strict Gadamerian sense that in a sense we are trying to survive, but also the game is trying us how long can you survive. Previously I've called this the gameplay condition, the idea that we need to keep meeting the demands of the game artifact, and then objects become significant in relation to this demand. So things can be deniable, undeniable. But here I'd like to note that the play of discovering a possibility, trying to realize its actuality, that's play against material resistance. The game will kick us out if we don't make the right combinations. So we note here that objects can not only be combined and recombined, like in Little Alchemy, but they need to be used for carrying food in the backpack or healing a broken leg with a splint. If these demands have been dealt with, then I can start considering to focus on my own projects. And now, time permitting, I'll tell you a little story of what happened on Skalesti Island. I was a noob. This is my third character in DayZ. Previously I had died for hunger and thirst. Then for the third time when I respawned on the beach and I saw this island, this landmass across the water. I thought, okay, I'll swim there. If this guy can swim, let's try. I went there and I found on the beach these little houses. And I discovered that if I pick up objects, the objects will reappear. I found a well to drink water from. I found a tree with apples. Then I found a bag of fertilizer. I found a farming gardening hoe and a cooking pot with which I can carry water from the well. I thought I had it made. Since there is no point in this game, why don't I just stay on Skalesti Island and have a comfortable life as a farmer? Unfortunately, I was too excited to take screenshots when it all happened. I was waiting for the plants to grow. I was sitting on the porch looking at the horizon, sunset and stuff. Then a player came who looked like he had just spawned. Black jeans, black t-shirt, bare hands. And I'm not so good with first-person shooter games, so I didn't really know how to defend myself. So he beat me to death with his bare hands. Then I was unconscious, and then I woke up from unconsciousness to see him having taken everything I had, even the gardening hoe. And he had the gardening hoe lifted up, and then he finished me with one blow, and you are dead. But I think I learned something. My assumptions were confirmed that there are objects in the game that I can observe, I can pick them up and combine and so on. I also learned that trees are useful for foraging for fruit. Axes and backpacks are more useful than tomato seeds. But most importantly, I learned that I was unaware of the extent of the resistance in relation to which I could possibly begin to consider realizing my own projects. This is a story of as Espen would have it, one story of one chronodope of all the possible chronodopes that the meta chronodope of Daisy can begin to unfold. But these are not just my idiosyncratic discoveries. I think if every noob, or bumpy as they call it, Daisy, every bumpy who goes to farm on Skallisti Island is likely to make the same discoveries here. So now a third level of discovery. Discovery of the possibility for self-realization, how the game allows me to take on my own projects, what I want to do in the game. So here they nicely come together, all levels. Knowing how to use the objects in the game allows me to survive the resistance of the game, which in turn allows me to discover the possibility of using the objects to realize my own projects. So here, the sort of play that would unfold when I'm doing this, that would be the sort of play as we know it from play theory. We are reclaiming the play from the game. That's play on my terms, I would think. We can consider farming in Daisy, or walking in Minecraft, or clearing lines of one color in Tetris, or admiring the landscape of GTA. Doing what I want to do, not what the game wants me to do. But here it's important that this project does not have to be successful, necessarily. Also that the project is meaningless in relation to the game artifact. There is tension, there is a gameplay between the actuality and the possibility, but that success or failure of that play is not measured by the game artifact. That's idiosyncratic and subjective to me. I decide if this feels right or not. But then again, since the conditions are the same for each player, I think others who have played the game would understand a project of self-realization. So these discoveries even of these possibilities have potentially intersubjective significance. So I'm beginning to conclude here. 3 levels of discovery, what I can do, what I need to do, and what I want to do. These are related to distinction we made with Sebastian last year between disowned, inauthentic, and authentic mode of play. I would like to point out that these levels could potentially be used as a comparative device for game analysis and criticism, since not all games afford all kinds of discovery, and not all playing exhaust the full potential of discovery. People playing Little Alchemy are also interested in self-realization. There's a blog, littlealchemystories.tumblr.com, where people publish this sort of pictures they make with Little Alchemy. But this sort of thing seems to fall back on human condition. There are some humans and corpses and grenades. Maybe it's a war against zombies. But to interpret this, to understand what's going on here, our knowledge of the objects in Little Alchemy, that has little significance to this. It falls back on human condition. Little Alchemy appears to be equivalent of a Photoshop software, or art games, or interactive art in a sense. Jesper Juhl's idea of games as language, this is going into that direction. Another example, self-realization in Tetris, where all the levels of discovery are present. Where it's difficult to achieve this. A specific kind of Tetris skill is needed. We might compare this to playing an instrument rather than playing a game here. Okay, that is all. Thank you.
And we still have 7 minutes for questions.
Maybe it's once again maybe a naive question, but how did you link the 3 level of discovery? Because for me, the idea of seeing discovery of instrumental rationality is kind of incompatible with the idea of self-realization, because usually the models that are oriented toward instrumental rationality do not really let any space for self-realization. And I'm thinking, for example, of the difference between I would say rational Cartesian model and a pragmatist model. In a pragmatist model, I could see how I can make a link between those 3 levels, but you didn't make any in the presentation. So how did you came with the 3 levels? How are they related in a global framework?
This, my usage of the word instrumental rationality comes from previous writing where I've looked at computer game objects as being related to each other, as being guided towards a particular goal, that goal being to not die in the game. And via looking at individual games, I found that the structure of most games is so that, as my farming example was intended to tell, that if we don't fulfill the demands of the game, i.e. if we don't reach the pinnacle of that instrumental rationality, then it is not a question of me thinking what should I do in the game, since I have not yet completed what the game wants me to do. So I think reaching some sort of pinnacle or culmination in terms of the instrumental rationality allows the activity to transform from play as meeting the demands of the game to play as meeting my own demands.
Just to see if I understood, maybe you have to have a teleological action in the first level, and then you can do something that is not that teleological.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Hi. I was wondering if you can go back to with your first slides when we talk about mediation, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Because just I want to understand this path towards discussion on mediation to ontology engines.
Yes, that you found the weak spot here. I don't really know how to make the bridge. I was not supposed to talk about mediation in the first place, but then I was pushed there by the question of how do we perceive this? Like, if we just talk about computer game ontology, as some people do, it implies that they are not taking the player's perspective. They are talking about game ontology as if it was out there for anyone to observe without having to be situated in the ontology themselves. So that's why I was prompted to talk about this. And mediation, I think, is then the key concept to understand how do players experience these games. But mediation alone doesn't quite cut it, since unless the simulation gap or the congruence requirements can be described as being fulfilled, so that the game mediates something outside itself. So it's a sort of a weird mediating onto itself, and thus appearing as the other relationship.
Because actually I was thinking that not a solution like that, because your discussion reminded me the more broad definition of interface, and that one of the last books of Progelli, like interface effect. So because for me in this book, his definition of interface, like in a general way, not like graph user interface, like the general idea of interface. It kind of reminds me of a definition of mediation by some current media scholars, I think of Hisham Grusing, and also the work of Galloway with Tacker and work in excommunications.
Right, I'm not a specialist of that branch of new media theory, but I would assume that when interface is considered in relation to some sort of productive task, where there is an outcome, tangible, discernible outcome, then it might be easier to distinguish between interface and something else. But in games, often part of the fun is to figure out the interface. Interfaces are made intentionally inefficient. Sometimes the challenge is in the interface. So I think that that makes it more difficult to consider interface in games compared to considering interface in productive software.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that highly inspiring talk, kind of a shower, refreshing. Could you go to your last slide, please?
Sure.
Because maybe I came, no, not the very last, probably but the last, yeah, that one, yeah. Okay, I came across the idea when you introduced the Alchemy game. And now presenting these three levels or stages or paradigms of knowledge. It reminded me a lot of Foucault's idea of the three epistemes throughout history, where he's talking in the order of things, where he starts with this level of alchemy as a pre-classic episteme, in which any object can be associated with any organ or star or element, whatever. And then you have that classical episteme in which you have the division between the words and the objects. which somehow might match number 2. And then you have this transcendental empirical duplication, as he calls it, in which the subject occurs. That would be like the stage number 3. So I see a strong parallel.
Yes, that seems really fitting. With the who said that man is not himself when he plays? That would fit that the subject only emerges on the 3rd level. I can be myself when I don't have to play that stupid game anymore. I can. Thank you. That's a good suggestion.
That will be the last one.
Yes, thank you. I'll keep it short. I'm just wondering if I understood you correctly that you imagine this to be sort of teleological, because you said you have to reach the pinnacle of the 2nd layer until you can actually then reach self-realization. And I'm not sure I agree with that when you think of games like Minecraft, for example. As soon as you have mastered the art of just putting a wall of dirt around you, you can basically do pretty much whatever you want in there, and it's like a condition for reaching that level. So I think, it might sound like a broken record, but I think it's a more circular relationship between those levels. It's not teleological.
Yes, as I put in brackets. I haven't really had the time to think this through as a cycle, but I thought, like Stefan mentioned, paradigms. These are sort of paradigm shifts in a way. But also, to be able to farm on Skallisti Island requires a different progression on level 2 than it would to, I don't know, be a bird watcher in the inland near the airport. These would really require 2 different pinnacles on level 2. And of course I can then change my project as I am in the game. Okay, I'm bored of farming, now I want to be the bird watcher near the airport where there's lots of snipers, so I have to get armors and stuff. And I would have to like go back to level 2 and so on and so forth. But that cyclical idea, you are absolutely right, it is a cyclical idea, but I just haven't thought it through that